Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views of myself, Salalo Makudiri, and we're going to be switching gears to a very, very significant story back here at home. A long-running community dispute in one of Johannesburg's most affluent suburbs. It's once again under the spotlight. We're talking about the Sandton Mosque dispute, which has recently been reignited. The conversation around development rights and community tensions have collided in Duxberry in Sandton. And this is a nearly 2-decade-long battle over the expansion of a local mosque. It has resurfaced again, as I mentioned, and I think it's exposing a whole lot more than what meets the eye, than what is at the surface. There are deeper tensions around religious rights and around community identity, because some of the residents of the area are raising concerns over zoning compliance of the mosque. They're complaining about increased traffic and noise, arguing that the expansion of the mosque could fundamentally alter the character of the neighborhood. I wonder what that means. And on the other hand, the mosque's supporters insist that the development is both lawful and necessary to serve a growing congregation in the area. So we're going to be unpacking all of this and exactly what it means. And we're joined by now by Yunus Suleman from the Sandton Mosque, who's going to be giving us a bit more insight on the story and everything that we need to know about it, and the facts, I think, which is most important, the facts around it and what is true and what is not. And he's joining us from Mecca. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Yunus. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views.
Walaikum salam. Thanks, Salilo. I'm more than happy to be here.
No, the pleasure is all ours, and I think we'll jump right into it. Let's start with the history here, the conversation around the expansion of the mosque. It's a dispute that has been going on for nearly 2 decades now. How did it begin, and why has it remained unresolved for so long to this day?
Well, I moved into Sandton in 2001, and at that point in time, there was only one major mosque, which is across the highway in Marlborough.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is that you need to establish these satellite, call it venues, which will attract and bring the community together. And as you know, historically, the white dominated areas in the past did not provide for these facilities. And since democracy, this has been a necessity. And I think if you look back on the establishment of the mosque was established officially in 2005 and was formally approved to be a place of worship and a place of instruction. And alhamdulillah, it's grown over the years, but the actual objectors, which live immediately next to the mosque, have been anti, let's say, the establishment for the last 25 years.
Mm.
And ultimately, as I mentioned up front, is that the mosque was approved and has been established, and it's been there for 20 years or longer. And so there's no real reason to be concerned about anything. I mean, ultimately, at that point in time, when we did get the approval, we were restricted to only one floor. And if you've ever been to that masjid, you'll notice that it looks like a house from the outside.
Mm.
And if you go inside, it's a fully fledged mosque. The whole point about where we are now is to really improve the facade of the mosque, to make it look as a proper mosque. And therefore, we applied in 2019 for the removal of the restrictions relating to moving up one floor, including a dome, including a minaret, and ultimately make it relevant to what is currently required for the community. There is a misconception that when a mosque is established, that the values of properties would go down. It's a total misconception. The prices have significantly increased in that vicinity. And more recently, we had what we call an on-site visit by the city council and the objectors. And I must remind the listeners that we only have 3 objectors. Despite this propagation that is 168 objectors and that there's a huge problem, in all situations, you would have a peak time. And in terms of the Muslim community, as you're aware, the Friday prayer is the most, let's say, well attended. And it's only at that time there is some traffic, which is understandable. But we provide traffic pointsmen, we try and make it less inconvenient for the community as best as we can. And we will always accommodate any needs to make sure that the community is not significantly inconvenienced. So from my perspective, I've been involved right from the outset, and I'm really concerned that people are still unhappy. And I've made the undertaking in the, let's call it the News 24 article. We will make sure that whatever we do is not going to be non-compliant. It's also going to be taking into account whatever is convenient for the neighborhood.
And I think I want to come back to a point that you made, because at the core of this issue are obviously the allegations around zoning and municipal bylaws. And from your understanding, you can unequivocally say that the mosque's expansion is compliant with local regulations. There's proof of it, and it has been presented to those that have raised some of the concerns that they've raised.
So if you look at the objectors, they raise the question of parking and they
Mm-hmm.
raise the question of noise. And in terms of current events where people do not use the loudspeakers as they used to do to broadcast the azan or the prayer, that's all done electronically. There is no issue about noise. And secondly, in terms of parking, the whole point about removal of our restrictions is to make sure we can provide as many internal parking bays as required. Now, we are requested by the City Council to provide 83 parking bays. In our plans for the future, we've actually gone up to 118, which means we're going beyond what is expected of us to make sure there's more parking on site. And so that's not an issue. From a zoning point of view, we believe we're completely compliant. In any event, if there is any shortcomings, it would not be significant. And the whole point about the actual rezoning restrictions being lifted would take into account anything we need to improve on site to avoid any criticism. And that's where we are. Once we have an approval from the council, we would then implement the actual project. It's not necessarily an expansion, it's an upgrade.
Mm,
Is to ensure that the facade of the masjid looks visibly as a mosque, not as a house as we currently stand. So
mm,
there's no
mm,
non-compliance as far as I'm concerned. We're complying with what we need to do, and we're going beyond what is expected of us to ensure that we do not breach any regulations and we also do not inconvenience people. And I would plead with people. I mean, we do everything in our power to avoid conflict and to provide an environment that is conducive to the neighborhood. And I'll give you two examples.
mhm,
The masjid has been established for a long time, as I said. You look at 2020, when COVID hit in, we made that site a COVID vaccination site. And the majority of people that came on site and had vaccinations were non Muslims.
mm,
Secondly, we have had a number of challenges from a water outage point of view. We provided a tap outside the premises for the community to come and help themselves to free water because we have a borehole on site and we wanted to make sure if you have a problem with water outages, come over and help yourself at no
mm.
cost to you. And that's the sort of thing that we have inculcated to ensure that the community feels that they would work with us and be available to help and to participate in whatever community events that may need to be done.
Brother Yunus, I think let's not beat around the bush here. This is South Africa at the end of the day, and we know that there's still a lot of resistance, there's still a lot of intolerance when it comes to other parts of our communities. How much of it do you think, so some of these objectors, how much do you think some of the arguments that they're raising are really of serious concern? They are one that you can also consider as a member of the community, and how much of it is simply put Islamophobic and non-tolerance to people of other religions, people of other races being in a community that is traditionally or historically has been reserved or has been taught or thought to be belonging to another set of people.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider it to be Islamophobic. I think that sometimes it's a misconception. And my own view is we have invited the community to attend a survey or an open day at the masjid. And
Mhm.
we've had that more than once. And we've tried our best to accommodate any concern they may have, ask them to raise them directly with us. Unfortunately, whatever we tried to do was not necessarily received favorably. They, in fact, used the information to work against us.
Mm,
And in that context, where the neighbors who are objectors, we have approached them and we've said to them, if they're not happy to stay next to a mosque, we're more than happy to find people to purchase their properties so they can move to an environment which they enjoy. At this point in time, the value of properties in that area has significantly increased. And that's
Mm,
a misconception that people have. If there's a mosque in their vicinity, their property values will go down. That's absolute nonsense, to put it bluntly.
mm,
And so I think it's just that the exact same neighbors have been living right next to the mosque for the past 25 years and have not relaxed their opposition to the establishment. The mosque was approved formally in 2005. It is there to stay. It's not going anywhere. You can have concerns, you can raise it, and we will deal with it in a practical way. So I don't see any reason for them to continue their opposition. And what tends to happen is they provoke other residents to come across and literally question the need for the mosque to be in the area. And that also is done in an irregular fashion. When it comes to rezoning in any environment, the public are invited to participate at a point in time. And this was 2019.
mhm,
The actual deadline was sometime in November 2019. And I am observing that the majority of people that come, and when we had the site visit a few weeks ago, and they raise a lot of concern, but they are not valid objectors because they were never in the neighborhood at that time. But despite that, if they raise a concern that is valid, we will deal with it. And we will do whatever is practical to ensure that people are not inconvenienced. But in certain instances, like on a Friday, as you know, there's a bit of a peak. And that's
mhm.
where we provide whatever we can to help reduce the risk of, call it, inconvenience.
Mm, mm. Lastly, before I let you go, brother Yunus, where to from here? Is this matter going to go under litigation? Are you going to go through with the plans of expanding the mosques, the mosque outlook, as you mentioned? Where do we go from here? Because this has been going on, as we mentioned, 20 years now.
Yeah. Well, we had, as I said, the initial hearing a few weeks ago. And this has unfortunately been delayed. There's been a protracted um, sort of hearing. But in the end, I'm hopeful that the council will deal with the call it necessary compliance that we need to do. The objectives will concede, I would imagine, to what we need to do. And I want to assure the residents there is no reason for concern. We would be, let's call it, upgrading the mosque. It will
Mm,
attract a lot more people from Islamic backgrounds to the vicinity, and that'll increase the properties even further. And in terms of any concerns, we have taken them into account, and we've said it at the hearing a few weeks ago, and we'll continue to say it. We will do whatever we need to ensure that we have an appropriate facility that will be suitable for the Muslim community and will not, in the bigger scheme of things, create any inconvenience going forward. So we're hopeful. I'm sure um, the reality would be that they would concede to our request, considering whatever objections there may be, and we will be delighted to invite people to have a survey or have a look at the masjid when it's completed in its rightful form, as you would see in any community. I must say that one thing is important is that we have these objectives in every single suburb where
mm,
Muslims want to establish a mosque. We will never object to any other religion that would want to establish a facility for their community. We are tolerant of other people and we're a peaceful group of people. So we hope, inshallah, that going forward, people will actually recognize that for what it is. And I plead with everyone there is no reason for concern. Your property values have increased over the last 20 years. I guarantee you that. And when we had the site visit, people were pointing out properties that were significantly higher than it was 20 years ago.
mm,
Thank you,
mm.
Salilo. I hope that that clarifies where we
It's
are and
loud
where
and
we'd
clear.
like to be.
Loud and clear. Jazakallah so much, Yunus Suleman, the Sandton Mosque co-chairperson. Hope we chat again soon.
Thank
And
you.
hope you have a wonderful time in Mecca.
Thank you.
There we
Assalamu
go.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. News and views continues after this.